So I've been fascinated to learn about NFTs and this whole kind of creative movement that seems to have sprung up almost out of nowhere. People make the simplest art, people make the most complex art, people make stuff that references culture and video games and memes. So today I thought I'd try for the first time to create an NFT. I have no idea whether this is going to be any good. I have absolutely no expectation that it's going to sell, but I thought I wanted to try it out because I've dabbled in 3D art before, I've dabbled in creating music before, but I've never actually sold any of my work before. I've always worked for a client, so being hired to do a job or through a sponsor or something like that. And so I'm really interested in this idea that creative people can just make the thing and sell it directly to the person who's watching it. This is probably going to be a total disaster, but if you'd like to join me in my journey of learning about and experimenting with 3D art and NFTs, then you're welcome to join me. Let's see how this goes. So the really cool thing about making 3D art in 2021 is that you can use a piece of software like Blender, which is totally free, totally open source. So you download the software for free and then you can learn how to use it online for free as well. This is where I got started, essentially taking a regular sphere and using displacement to take it from something like this, a perfectly round sphere, and turning it into something like this kind of warp shape. I really like this warp shape. And this stuff's pretty easy to do in Blender. You can find a basic tutorial on Blender for a lot of this stuff. It looks a lot more intimidating than it is to actually get started. I didn't start out with a big message that I'm trying to tell. I didn't start out with this perfect image that I was trying to create. I've just been kind of playing with it. And I think that's quite a fun way to create things. Obviously everyone has their own process, but I've been quite enjoying just kind of fiddling around and seeing what works. At the beginning of the animation, this number is set to 0.13, which means there's not very much displacement happening. And so using very simple keyframe animation, we can have our opening animation start here. Halfway through, it's halfway through the keyframes. By the end of it, it's reached the final look. That got me thinking, because you can use graphs to set your keyframes. If I select the item, you can see this is right now what's happening. As this graph goes up, it becomes more distorted. And so this is the maximum distortion value, looks really trippy. So I was thinking, what if we could paint a picture or represent some data on this graph? So have this graph follow a piece of information. So this, for example, is the weekly trade volume of CryptoPunks for the past couple of weeks. I thought maybe we can use that shape for our animation. And that's a really cool thing about making art with Blender, or really just any kind of art. You can use any piece of information or any ideas as inspiration. Like I've never made anything that was inspired by a graph before, but why not? There really are no rules with creativity. So considering that NFTs have such an impact on the planet, what if it was the planet itself that was distorted and stretched to follow the trade volume of NFTs? Even just talking about art, I always find it's a bit pretentious. It's really hard to speak about what you're doing without sounding like you're all self-important. Please take everything I'm saying here with a grain of salt. I'm not an expert. I'm just trying this out and having fun with it. And I'm trying to teach myself that art can be whatever you want it to be. I tried spinning the earth at the same time as animating the texture, and now I'm really liking the way this kind of looks a bit choppy. The render is finally finished. It took exactly 1 hour. And so now I've got a bunch of images which all play back like that. And I can bring them into DaVinci Resolve, which is a lovely piece of video editing software, which has a very good free version. Slow it down a bit so that it's a bit choppy, because I had my animation running fast so that when I slow it down in post, choppy effect. And here we go. This is my NFT animation that loops perfectly as it inhales and exhales. So there we go, I've made my first piece of 3D digital art. Definitely took longer than I thought it would. It was a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be as well. But that's kind of often the case with creativity, I find at least. I don't think I've ever finished something and just been like, wow, I'm really happy with this. This is amazing. I'm always doubting, could that be better? Should I have made this thing in the first place? Maybe I should have taken a different route. Anytime that I'm being creative, I'm always battling between wanting it to be really good, but also not exactly knowing what good means. You know, is it something that I like? Is it something that other people would like? What do I like? What do other people like? These are all really difficult questions to answer, but I'm happy that I've made something. I have no idea if it's good or if anyone's going to be interested in it, but I am going to try selling it. And so I'm going to make a video about my experience trying to sell my first piece of art as well. If you'd like to watch that, it will be coming soon or linked up there when it's ready. So yeah, thanks for coming along with me on this strange experience, and see you in the next video. So I'm thinking muted might be better. There's no sound in space anyway. So there's no sound in space, there's no sound in my video. Ha! That's my explanation.